pleasure to be able to introduce to you the speaker for the evening. It's not very often that a young man from South Alabama gets the opportunity to rub shoulders with a congressman. They didn't have very many black congressmen when I was growing up. But now that I'm grown up, I get the opportunity to rub the shoulder. His biography is in your book. I'm sure you don't want me to stand up here and read his bio, and it would say that he's a product of the Montgomery school system and that he's very heavy. For all you youngsters don't know what heavy means, that means that he's smart. I'm sure you don't want me to tell you that he's cum laude, magna cum laude. You don't want to hear all that. But what you do want to hear is that he believes in the success and the growth of an HBCU, and that's us. We hope and we pray that on November 4th, 2008, history was made in these United States. We hope and we pray that in November of 2010, that I'll have the opportunity to look on that tag in Alabama that says Heart of Dixie, and it says we've come a long way and we've met the heart by electing our first African-American governor in the state of Alabama. I want you to stand with me and welcome our congressman from the 7th Congressional District of Alabama, Congressman, the Honorable Congressman Arthur Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mathis. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mathis, for the introduction. This microphone has been a dangerous thing tonight, so I'm going to try to be ginger with it here. Let me begin by, first of all, thanking all of you for being here tonight. Our honorees, our 2 outstanding coaches who were here, the incomparable John Stallworth. You know, I have a confession to make about John Stallworth. There were times in the early 80s and times in the late 70s when I did root for the Houston Oilers and the Dallas Cowboys. But in the interest of balance, if my Oilers had to lose, I wanted Stallworth to be the guy who caught the winning touchdown. And he always was. So I am very glad to share the stage, to actually receive them on the stage tonight. And I want to thank you all for inviting me. I did not know that this chapter existed until you sent me the invitation to come and speak to you. But as I moved around Washington, D.C., I always felt that there were a lot of Alabama folk that I would run into every now and then. So I'm glad to see all of you with a history in our wonderful state collected in this community. I'm glad to have a chance to say something to you for a few moments. And I finally reached the point in life where I can finally really tout my bona fides as someone who's standing here. Here's what I mean by that. My mother is Alabama State class of '63. So I get that straight. My wife is Alabama State class of 1998. I was on the board of Tuskegee for 2 years. And I love A&M. So at least I finally am able to assert my bona fides as I stand here. But in all seriousness, let me begin with this observation, ladies and gentlemen, before I say a little bit that I want to say now. First thing I want to say is, all of us in this room are so remarkably blessed. When some of you were in Montgomery, Normal, and Tuskegee, you lived in a state and a country that would have barred its doors to most of the dreams that you had. I know my mother would tell me about it. To this day, she will not look at Eyes on the Prize because she says, I used to have to sit in the back of those buses. And she always tells me, I don't need to see that on TV. That's for those of y'all who weren't there. And then all of a sudden, ladies and gentlemen, it's like the country's gotten well on us. January 20th of this year, I would venture a guess that every single person in this room either went down to the Capitol and stood in one of those lines. And if you didn't get up at 6 a.m. in the morning and didn't make the line, you made it to the TV. And I will bet that every single person in this room had some point that day when it hit you. It might have been when you saw Sasha and Malia come out on that stage. It might have been when Obama walked up there and raised his hand and put the other hand on the Bible. It might have been when you saw how good Michelle looked. But there was a moment when everybody in this room on that one day said, my faith in this country has come true. My faith in what my children can be has been validated. I don't know what's in store for us, ladies and gentlemen, as a country. I don't know what's in store for us as a people or a community. But something tells me that we just may be that blessed generation of people who knows what it's like to touch ground with the promised land. We are so enormously blessed. But the purpose of this banquet tonight is to call our attention as a blessed, fortunate, more affluent than ever, more successful than ever, more abundant than ever, more plentiful than ever people, is to call our attention to three things. The lost ones in the valley, the 13th dove, and the ones we look past. Tell you what I mean. I have a very good friend named Raphael Warnock, who is the pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. He gave me the wonderful honor of being Men's Day speaker at his church last October. When I went into his pastorate study, I saw a picture on the wall. It's a picture of two hauntingly beautiful children of color. Their faces were pristine, but you could see that the clothes they were wearing were those of poor, less affluent people. And you could see behind their shoulders that there was something that could not be called anything other than a shack. Above their faces was written the words, "Do not look past us. In your glory, in your splendor, do not look past us." Alexander the Great was a brilliant young ruler. By the age of 30, he had